significant weather.
Let's listen into the city of Toronto updating on snow removal.
Days, and until yesterday, cold temperatures prevented snow melt from happening. It's a significant amount of snow for Toronto, as a large winter storm in Toronto was about 10 centimeters of accumulation. Therefore, clearing 53 centimeters that fell in just a few days required an enhanced operation that, while effective, does take a lot of time. To help everyone get around, crews have been working in shifts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to plow the snow to the side of the road or sidewalk, and now we're also removing these large piles left behind by plows. Snow removal requires crews to collect snow into dump trucks and move it to designated snow storage sites like the one we're at right now. Since starting the removal last week, more than 114,000 tons of snow have been removed from our streets in more than 10,400 dump truck loads. The snow taken away by these trucks were picked up from locations across the city and include snow from the roads, sidewalks, bikeways, and school zones. This is a tremendous amount of snow that's been picked up over 6 days, amounting to an average of 1,700 loads a day and more than 19,000 tons of snow removed each day. I'd like to thank the crews involved in all these operations for your tremendous effort. Appreciate all the long hours and the multiple days in a row that everybody's been working, and we'll continue to work until we finish what we've started. As the weather warms up and the snow begins to melt, we have crews out inspecting the catch basins to address local area flooding. And where it's safe to do so, we would also ask that property owners help to clear the snow from the catch basins if it's convenient and safe to do so. That will help water from ponding on the roads. Both clearing catch basins and the ongoing snow removal operations will both help to review the chance of flooding. Our crews are also looking ahead to the provincial election later this week, and staff are back out again inspecting the areas around all Election Day voting places and prioritizing them for cleanup. As the mayor and other councillors have indicated earlier today, there's an expectation for this work to be done as soon as possible, and we couldn't agree more. I am aware of the request the mayor has made of the city manager and the auditor general to, among other things, conduct a full review of the winter snow operations related to this most recent storm. We will most certainly work closely with the city manager and the auditor general as they conduct their review. And we are committed to continuous improvement and have put significant focus on finding ways to further enhance our winter service delivery in the future. As always, we appreciate everybody's patience while we get this work done, and we'll keep you updated of how our operations are going. And I'm now going to hand it over to Vince Ferrazza, who's going to give us a little bit more into the details about the operations this last couple of days.
Thank you, Barbara, and welcome again to our Transit Road snow dump site. As you can see behind us, I think the last time we were here, there was just maybe one layer, one level of snow. As you can see now, it's now multiple layers and quite an extensive operation. So as we indicated last week, though, snow removal after a storm of the size that we had, over 50 centimeters within 10 days, it takes up to 3 weeks to complete a snow removal operation of that magnitude. This estimate has not changed and is based on the volume of snow that we received and how long it takes to crews and equipment to safely remove the snow from the location. Again, for example, as I mentioned before, to do 1 kilometer stretch of a residential street can be done in 5-10 minutes. But snow removal along that same stretch can take up to 10 hours to do safely. To help crews get snow removed as quickly as possible from your street, we ask that drivers who see the temporary orange no parking snow removal signage in the snow banks, and you'll see that days leading up to the removal in that location, to not park on the street until the snow has been removed and the sign has been removed. If there are vehicles parked on those streets, when we're trying to remove the snow, it makes it even harder and longer to remove the snow. Now, vehicles that are parked in those locations can be ticketed or towed at the owner's expense to prevent us from properly removing the snow. Now, what we actually have done to assist all the residents in the neighborhood, we'll have staff actually knock on doors and ask any of the residents in the homes to please move their cars temporarily as we remove the snow. And I can say that personally, based on what I have seen every day and going out across the city, The residents have been extremely cooperative and supportive. I've seen many residents leave their homes, move their car so that we in fact can quickly and safely remove the snow. So I say thank you very much to all the residents of Toronto for helping us. Now, at the direction of City Council, we prioritized our first 2 stages of snow removal based on main streets, sidewalks, and pedestrian signals, transit stops, hospitals and emergency service stations, school bus loading zones, and roads with limited space for snow storage, where excess snow can cause problems. By prioritizing these locations, we help to ensure safety and accessibility for most vulnerable road users, including pedestrians, people with disabilities, students, and transit riders, as well as maintaining access for first responders. Those priorities remain as our crews spread out across the city over the next few days. Now, snow removal on this scale was last done in January 2022, when we also got over 50 centimeters. Since then, we have enhanced our snow removal operations. We have more capacity with our in-house crews and equipment. Our contractors have also been able to procure additional removal equipment. And we updated our bylaws around the declarations which we were able to make prior to a snowstorm to improve our clearing and removal access. Our additional equipment helps specifically on sidewalks and cycling infrastructure that we never had before. And these are pieces of equipment that are extremely strong. They run on tracks as opposed to wheels. We know that snow can move from wind and other clearing operations as time goes on, and that we are looking at areas of the city by doing additional plowing. So with the warmer weather, you're going to see now some of the windrows and the snowbanks collapsing, and that snow will then go back into the right-of-way. So we will have to revisit, and we're doing that by continuing our plowing operations, specifically on the sidewalks. It is important to note that the city does not offer snow clearing or removal from private properties such as driveways. However, residents can call 211, Ontario's helpline that connects people to social services, programs, and community supports for access community agencies that may be able to assist seniors and others with snow clearing efforts. As Barbara mentioned, we are with you in wanting this snow to be removed as soon as possible, and we'll be glad when this process is finished, as everyone else here I'm sure is. We are accepting service requests, so if there are specific locations where there is a need, then please submit that to 311 through the 311 app, online, or by calling, and we will attend to those as quickly as possible. So now Barbara and I will take any questions.
All the sidewalks are fully clear. Mentioned at press conference in front of the sidewalk.
So the question around sidewalk clearing, so certainly our team and the contracted crews have plowed every sidewalk in the city at least one time since the beginning of the storm. We are going back to double check our records on that. But as Vince mentioned, plowing the sidewalks doesn't necessarily leave them clear. And so many people, we know their experience is that the sidewalks have not been cleared. They have been plowed, and I think there is that discrepancy between whether they've been plowed by our equipment or by our teams, which they have been multiple times since the beginning of the storm. And again, we're checking that information, and whether to someone who lives on that block, if they believe that that sidewalk is then clear. Because when you have windrows in this type of an event, where they've mounted up on the side of the street and it starts to melt, or another plow operation has come through, or even what we're seeing a lot, and as we were driving up Bathurst on our way here, the sidewalks look great on most of the side streets, and then somebody had clearly plowed out either a driveway or they had plowed out a plaza, and it had blocked the front of the sidewalk. So a lot of times people will be frustrated. I can completely understand that. Certainly our teams are not resourced enough to be able to get back to everything as quickly as we would want to, but I feel like that's where perhaps the discrepancy is. Excuse me? Have all lanes of every road in the city been cleared? Certainly the curb lanes in some cases where there's mounds of windrows, we have to go and do snow removal, and that's what we're doing right now. So we have done plowing operations on every street in the city, but those curb lanes and some of the places where the wind is piled up from doing the center part of the lane, like on a local road, where it looks like there's a narrow path down the center, the plows have been there, but we need to do additional follow-up activity. Calm down, everyone. We're not going anywhere. So on snow removal is a very different operation than plowing, right? As you see behind us, the results of it. And even with our sister city over there in Montreal, who had, I think, about 70 centimeters of snow to our about 53. They have a much smaller area that they have to plow, and they do snow removal as well. It is a very slow operation, and so it is going according to our plan. I think as Vince talked about last week, we have kind of a 4-phase plan. What's happening in the first 72 hours, what's happening in the next 4 to 7 days, 7 to 14 and 14 plus. And so we are delivering on that plan. We are checking in on whether we are moving apace with it or whether we are needing to catch up. And then it is going as per plan, and it is slow moving. And certainly we would all like it to happen faster. A lot of that has to do with how much people and equipment that we actually have. And just one last thing on snow removal is that in Montreal, they get lots of 30-plus centimeter storms pretty frequently, and so they do snow removal on sidewalks and actually, I think, all rights-of-way in Montreal regularly. They have a much larger program than we do. I don't want to say it's double the size in terms of cost, but it's nearly double the size. And lots more equipment. They're able to do it a lot faster. And I think as part of the mayor and city manager's request for review and for auditing of our existing contracts and programs, that's absolutely something we will look at, because I think the expectation of what happens in a snowstorm of this size versus what we're actually resourced to do, I understand why people would want more things to happen faster. So we can understand that. Yeah. Yeah, and we will look into that. I don't know if I can certainly take a stab at that. So one of the things that we have with our new contracts and with our staff as well, since I believe it was the end of 2022, we have a lot more sort of performance measures and controls, both for our own staff to oversee the contractors as well as the contractors themselves. That includes GPS on all of the equipment. You might remember for the previous contracts, there was concerns and frustration. We shared that about how much equipment had GPS. We have regular checks. We're going back with our internal compliance and doing a double count to make sure that everything was running as operating. And so the plowing has been happening. There are performance timelines for the contractors to leave the yard. We know when that happens because we have the GPS records to prove it. And so again, all of that is something that we will do a deep dive on. I'm sure the auditor will as well, to demonstrate if the contractors are delivering on their service levels and if there's anything that needs to change.
Can you say that all the sidewalks have been plowed or cleared when there's still so many out there where we've seen people in wheelchairs not being able to get through, people with walkers, strollers, struggling to get through? I mean, it's still a disaster in some parts of the city.
So I've said that they were plowed. I didn't say that they were cleared. There's lots of issues, and I explained it to this gentleman about how the snow moves around. So we can go out and plow the sidewalk, and we do that at 2 centimeters in successive rounds after that. We've continued to do that. In fact, just again on Sunday, we called out our sidewalks again. They'll be working regular through to at least Thursday, just to make sure that we are focusing on the many, many locations that people are going to go out to vote. We have done transit stops. We'll continue to do those again. But the snow does move around out there. And again, I understand people are frustrated. They don't think that it's completed. And so the best thing we can do is continue to get at it, continue to communicate, and always be willing to take a look at our operations and make sure that it's the the best it can be, because I think the people of Toronto deserve an excellent service. We are delivering a service based on the service standards that's in our contracts and that we have within our own internal procedures that the council has approved, our service levels. And so we will continue to do our best to meet those and also identify where we think there's room for improvement.
Controversial. It's come under fire by multiple members of council. Do you still have confidence in the current contractors that are hired?
Oh, I do have confidence in the contractors that are hired. I think the proof is always in the pudding. It's a very, very big city to manage, both for the contracted crews and also for our own internal crews. And so having the tools to be able to look at that data and understand and make sure, previously in the previous contracts, we didn't have GPS on all the units, so we couldn't be as clear as to where the units were, how often they were going out, when they were going out, when the plow blade is down, when it's up. And we still have some glitches in that. I know that plow TO at the beginning part of the storm, we were missing some data on the sidewalk plows in a number of parts of the city that we had to update, and we were able to do that as well. So we will do, again, a full assessment. It's not the only assessment that we've done of the contracts. I know this is the biggest snow we've had since 2022, but we have an internal compliance unit that also does a look at how our staff is doing and how our contractors are doing in meeting those service targets. And again, having said that, I'm not sure that the program that we're staffed to deliver fully meets people's expectations, and so that's a challenge back to us to look at that.
When I was speaking with the Krupe Group, which was they failed on one of the bids in 2021, they were saying that they were shocked and appalled that one of the contracts was given to a company that didn't bid on one of the zones. Is that true, and what is your response to that?
I'm going to let you know that better than I do.
So back in 2021, we actually did multiple procurement. So we went out twice to receive bids for the various zones that we were in need of a contractor. Following that, we followed all of the city's purchasing bylaws and policies on how to appropriately, correctly, and legally award a contract for each zone. So we did, in fact, satisfy all of the purchasing bylaws, policies, all the corporate policies that is involved on awarding a contract as per purchasing bylaws. So I'm satisfied that, in fact, we did, ensure that we ran a very fair and diligent process.
And the auditor has looked at that, and we'll look at it again. So I think it's worthwhile to look at that report. I think it was in November of 23, perhaps. Hi there.
Delays up to 30 minutes because of vehicles blocking streetcars in various locations. Do you plan to increase fines? How do you plan to mitigate this?
So in terms of cars blocking the TTC streetcars, we're in very close contact with our partners at the TTC, police and parking enforcement, because in addition to our own teams, so we have planned snow removal routes where we line up those resources to go out and do the assessment of whether there are cars that are blocking in the snow routes that need to be removed, and then they need to get ticketed and towed if they don't move on their own. And so we plan that for excuse me, for the TTC streetcar routes. They are out with the police parking enforcement doing assessment. I think it's from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They're out and doing those assessments, and we'll call out those tows. We will also call out those tows as well. I think part of the challenge that we're seeing, though, is when there's so much snow in the street and in the city and limited places to park, people are parking for short periods of time, and they're running into businesses, or maybe they're even parking further out into the area where the streetcar would move, and that's having an impact on people trying to use transit, which is what we want people to do. So we really need to continue to stay on top of that, and we will continue to work with TTC and our partners in the police to do so. I think that it is and we've had the auditor take a look at value for money on our winter contracts and our winter snow program altogether. We've had the auditor give us her advice in previous years on whether it would be better value for money to bring the program in-house, and that has not been the auditor's advice at that time. It is a very big city. It's a huge program. We've added component pieces of it, including the downtown. You might remember that before 2021, I think it was 21, we did not plow sidewalks at all on the local roads in downtown. So the program has changed and been improved over time to address people's expectations. I would say that a 53 centimeter storm, people should not have the expectation that everything will be returned to normal within 5 days, which is why at the beginning of this effort, we indicated it was going to take 3 weeks, and we continue to work on that. But I do think that value for money is a critical piece, and one that we are very focused on, and one that we will continue to assess through these next bit of reviews that the mayor has called for.
And we are just listening to city officials update us on the snow removal process and also reacting to Mayor Olivia Chow's comments that the snow removal has been unacceptable. They say that there is an expectation to have this work done as quickly as possible.